Three, two, one. Hey everyone, Dorit here today, and I have Anthony from Oxford, England, and we're going to be discussing how Anthony achieved massive professional clarity while also getting lots of coffee chats with tech employers, recruiters, and team members in 30 days. So, hi Anthony.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So let's kick it off with this. Could you please briefly introduce yourself and what you teach or taught?
Sure. My name is Anthony Peters. I've been teaching English, literature and language for the last 10 years. Prior to that, I was teaching TESL or TEFL to foreign speakers of English. And I'm so glad I found you because I was feeling like I was getting quite stuck. And no, it was tremendous. It was tremendous.
Wonderful. Okay, so cool. So we're going to go into these details. So let's start with, how long have you been teaching for?
Yeah, it's been about, gracious, probably about 10, 12 years altogether, if I include state and private teaching, as well as teaching foreign speakers of English to speak English. So yeah, a while.
A lot of time. And how long have you been thinking about transitioning out of the classroom?
I think it's been sort of on and off, sort of phasing in and out over the last, I suppose, a year-ish. As when I left the private sector, I moved into the state sector, and I was like, okay, I've done this before. I bring innovative stuff coming into the lessons, and I was like, oh, you see all these wonderful things online. I just think I'd love to have more of an impact on a national and international scale, but how on earth do I do it? So I never, in the last 6 months, I think it was the most profound temptation to go to see what else is out there. But yeah, it's about a year, I suppose, but in the last 6 months, big time.
Got it. Okay, great. So actually, how did we find each other? How did you find me and my services?
Interestingly, it was on Facebook. So and this is quite almost ironic that I found you on Facebook, because I always thought that Facebook was dying out, sort of thing, but it's complete reverse of what I initially anticipated. I couldn't have been further from the truth. And it was by sheer luck that I was just looking through some of the tech chats that were going on, because I like to keep my ear to the ground and see what technology is being used in education. And then you popped up, and I was like, oh, finally, a wonderful suggestion. And then I connected with you, and then the rest was 30-day history.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I remember we started chatting, and then we had a couple calls, and then we started together officially.
Yeah.
Great. So, before we started working together, how were you actively trying to leave the classroom, and what were you doing, and how was it working?
Well, that was part of the problem, actually. I think this is I'm hoping all the people who hear this will also probably have the same sort of feeling that I did, is you don't really know where to start. I mean, I've got many interests, as you and I have discussed over the last 30 days or so, but I didn't quite, first of all, I didn't know where to begin. I didn't know which skill set and interests I wanted to follow on with, which ones would be the more lucrative ones, which ones would open up the best avenues. And then even if I knew that, I didn't know where to begin looking. So I was in a complete dither, really.
Right. Yeah, you are a person of many talents and many contributions and many achievements already. So what your answer definitely makes sense in terms of how to hone that down. Okay, so would you say that you were wanting to leave, but like you weren't able to make any inroads on that desire because you just weren't sure how to do it?
Yes, and also I wasn't aware of what was available out there. This is another wonderful, I mean, there's so many, I could shout your praises from the rooftops. There's so many benefits to this program. It's not just where creating an understanding of where your skills are, although that was invaluable. I really know what I want to do now and how I'm going to achieve it, which is empowering beyond belief. But it was also sort of becoming aware of what is out there. I mean, when I first chatted to you, I remember saying, is there a demand for people like me who isn't specifically a coder, like a really proficient Xbox game coder, for example, but someone who's sort of in between that could fill this gap. And then suddenly all these wonderful discussions opened up, and I've never been so excited because I never even realized that that would actually be a potential hope. And it's become reality.
Wonderful. I can't wait to get into that more. And so well, let's say this. So what piqued your interest about that post you saw on that Facebook page that one day? What interests the most about reaching out and starting to chat with me?
Well, I just thought it would, why not? Because I didn't know where to begin, honestly. I just did not know where to begin. I can't tell, well, you know how hopelessly beguiled I was at that time. And I was just like, you don't, not only do you not know where to begin, but you don't know how to even transition from wherever you're not even sure which direction you want to go, honestly. So I just thought, why not? There's somebody's putting a question out there.
Right.
And I answered, and I just said, yes, I'd be very interested to talk to you. And then it just wonderfully went from there. It was great.
Wonderful. So let's talk about some results. What are some of the results you've seen from our work together during the 30 days and moving forward? Let's talk about that.
Well, I think first and foremost that your program wasn't. It's without it, none of this would have happened. And also, it's not like the end. The way I was seeing it is a 30-day thing. It doesn't actually end with the 30 days. It just begins. So it's the beginning of a very exciting journey. So one of the wonderful benefits that came from it was targeting specific individuals who could benefit me and whose businesses I could add value to. And opening those channels was fantastic because they were channels not only that I thought initially would be inaccessible to me, but I didn't even know they existed in the first place, because I didn't even know there was a demand for the sorts of skills that you can have as a teacher, which are so readily transferable. So that was a wonderful, huge asset, actually, which is ongoing now. I mean, I've got a number of coffee chats going on at the moment with some CEO in Japan, and there's another. Most of them are in the States, the power of the USA, which are very exciting because they're actually decision makers. They're not sort of people you just discuss some ideas with, which I've been doing up until this point. These are people that can actively see see what you can bring and how you can help them, and so it becomes more a mutually exclusive advantage to everyone. So it's tremendous. I mean, the coffee chats alone, the further training which I want to get involved in, because I've also noticed that although I'm quite sort of proficient in virtual reality and augmented reality, for my sort of skill set, there are programs which would actually empower me and sort of help me to get another step up as well, like learning Unity programs through one of the people that I got in touch with through you. So the sky isn't even the limit, really. It's brilliant.
Right. It's like when you know how to go about it. First of all, the important thing is to kind of have a focus where you want to have the focus, and then that can come about through working together and talking with other people. And then once you have more of a focus, you can kind of pursue that. So where did your focus land?
Now, as I stand here before you, it's on the virtual reality content developing side of things, but not designing. I should be more specific. It's another wonderful thing about the program. Actually, you learn the sort of buzzwords and the lingo of the street, or rather the various sectors that you want to go into. So now, of all the things, gamification that I was involved with, and augmented reality, all this and that, virtual reality is awesome. And finally, if I look at all the skills that you and I went through and all the programs I've done and projects I've done, it all leads down that really nice avenue. And where there's a huge demand, which I didn't realize there was, and there's even for people who aren't explicitly coders, it's for people who can design the stuff, so there are wonderful holes that you can fit into, and that's where I've landed. So I'm very excited to get started this year.
Awesome. Okay, so I think I want to dig into that a little bit more, and I'm thinking about this. So were you using, virtual reality and augmented reality in the classroom? Can you just tell us a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit about how that world ties to your world as a teacher?
Sure. Well, initially, I've always been quite a techie fan, not just for the reasons that it engages the students, but also it entertains me rather selfishly. So I thought, you know what, let's jazz these lessons up a bit. So bringing Sherlock Holmes or Shakespeare to life with treasure hunts using crime scenes that the kids then have to sort of connect the testimony and all of this stuff. So I just did it because it was a really cool tool. Tech is an incredibly powerful tool to make learning more engaging. And then I started to see the results in their attainment in their exams were actually better because they were actually having to think instead of passively reading. They're actually acting upon the content that I was making. And now, what I didn't realize until I met you and we just started opening all these channels is that content creation is we're in the middle of a boom. I mean, we're in a technological sort of revolution at the moment, but it's not peaking. It's with the peak is still to come, and this is why it's such an exciting time because there's, in terms of a demand for distance learning, not just for this COVID lockdown. It's also it makes more sense to be in the sort of scenario where you feel the most comfortable. You know, the optimum learning environment, as they call it. So with virtual reality, I mean, you can create anything, So that's where I'm at the moment. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So what is one of the differences that you this is wow. Let me rephrase that. Sort of a weird loaded question that, I'm not sure I'm wording correctly. Let me go with this. Since working together, what areas of your professional and or your personal lives have improved, and by how much?
Oh, tens of thousands of times better. Well, I suppose we could start with the personal life and then move on to the professional life. So the personally, because I now know the direction where I want to be, I'm wasting far less time. You know, when you're trying to, I don't know if this happens to anybody, is you or anyone who's listening, is when you're not sure where you're going, you just waste hours and hours investing these ideas and this time, and then at the end of it, instead of feeling very empowered and very healthily rewarded, you're just like, oh, it's almost as if you're further away from the objective than you began with. I mean, I had a couple of interviews when I started before you and I really got into it, and I was asking, I didn't know where I was going, and that was hopeless because then in my personal time I was constantly worrying and thinking about that, thinking, oh my goodness, this is a disaster. I'm just wasting all this time where I should be playing with my son or doing something more social. In terms of my professional standing, it's gone leaps and bounds. I mean, my curriculum vitae, all my social media profiles, all of that has become tight and really, really tight in terms of what the people are after, and so it's not all these lovely things that I've had fun making. It sounded very wishy-washy, and I was hopelessly wording it in terms of what these people are looking for. So I'm actually, you've reshaped, you completely reinvented my sort of social and occupational presence, and so that I'm actually, what they see is actually reflective of what I've done, as opposed to just describing it in elongated 18-page documents, which is what I think I presented you with at the start, which was hopeless.
It's
But
also
yeah,
of where you want to be going too, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely. I actually know exactly where I need to go and how exactly I'm going to get there, which
amazing.
is tremendous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so excited for you.
it's cool.
Um, so actually, I didn't ask this before. I want to ask this now. Can you estimate how many coffee chats you got in that 30 days we were working together? And we're
Gosh.
talking, recruiters, team members in companies,
Oh, loads.
lawyers.
Absolutely loads. Because there was a point sort of in the middle when we were refining all the bits and pieces that we're going through. I did have a point where I had 2 or 3 a day. At the moment, I'm trying to focus. This is why it's such a nice program, because every day you reflect on what you got out of everything. So even if the coffee chat wasn't exactly what you wanted, it's got you closer to where you want to be, which is fantastic. So my advice from that perspective is just get as many coffee chats as you can, but aim higher, work your way up. So stop. Some of my chats gave me ideas, but then other coffee chats, I thought, okay, they've given me some things, I'm sharing some things, but I wasn't getting enough out of it that I thought I did. So I was like, right, so we aim higher. And as you were saying with your guidance, you start aiming higher to the decision makers and how you get hold of the decision makers using all your wonderful strategies. That's what was incredibly rewarding, because that gave me direction. There was no time wasted anymore. This is what's so amazing. I've never been so productive in my life because you just don't waste time anymore, because you know exactly every day set of things you want to do.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's wonderful. So I'm going to encourage you a little bit more to try to quantify the number of coffee chats. You can give an estimate.
It'll be over 30. It'll definitely be over 30. Yeah, and they've just got better and better. The quality of them gets better and better and better. That's what's nice. So whereas at the beginning, where I could have got, I don't know, 4 or 5 in one day, they're nothing like the quality of coffee chat I get now, because I know exactly what I'm after, what I can offer them in order to continue dialogues and things. But yeah, it would have been loads. It was probably over that number, to be honest. I just can't remember them all.
And it's wonderful, to hear you talking about this idea of getting better with practice.
Yeah.
We have to allow ourselves to stumble, but to keep going, and to not kind of hinder ourselves with, self-judgment, and everything is practice. So
absolutely.
It's great to hear you talk about it in those terms. So what does, I don't know, the next 30 days or the foreseeable future look like for you?
That's interesting. I mean, it depends on how these coffee chats go, I suppose, the ones I'm moving into. I mean, there's a company, because I'm interested in the virtual reality scenario. So there's there are only a couple of companies that have started creating virtual reality classrooms, and there's one CEO that I've got a chat with. I think it's at the end of this week, and he's very interested to see how I've been using, because virtual reality has evolved like all tech, and I've been playing with it, for the last 10 years, since it really just began, like YouTube 360 videos and things like that.
Right.
So he's quite keen to hear what I want to say, because then I can add value to it. So I'm hoping that it's going to be something along the lines of content creation, but with a more, it goes beyond just the realm of the classroom. I mean, that's incredibly rewarding too, but I want to have a far broader impact. And that's what I can do now for the next 30 days onwards, I think. And also looking to opportunities outside of my usual thing. So usually it would be, I think, okay, I'm in Oxfordshire, or I'm in Oxford, I need to look for work here. My horizons have broadened to the extent that it's literally anywhere. I mean, that coffee chat I had with the Japanese chap, he's in Japan, and he said, no, it's all remote learning. This is how we work. And I'm like, this is the future. This is cutting edge stuff. And then, it's good.
It's wonderful, and definitely accelerated by the pandemic. We all have to be on the same page now about the need for working remotely and
definitely
providing quality remote education for our young people.
Yeah. And it works. It's not just engaging. You see it in their results. That's what's so cool. It's not just because if you talk to headmasters and principals and you say, well, this tool, it's you have to invest a bit of money in this tool. Well, yeah, the kids will enjoy it, but we're off. You have an examination board and school boards and inspections we need to appease, but their results reflect the engagement and enjoyment and the clarity they get through using these tools. So yeah, the future's looking good.
That's wonderful. And one other change that I've really enjoyed working with you to achieve that I'd like to mention is sort of valuing your work. Valuing your work more, not like just volunteering to do a cool project with someone, but actually charging money for.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing about your it teaches you a sort of a mindset. I mean, it's a very bizarre way anyone would doing your program will probably think, it's so easy to do what we're used to. But when you suddenly asked or required or suggested to try something new, it feels weird. But as soon as you get cracking, it's the way it should be. It really is. If you think how the hours invested in creating content, in my example, with lessons and stuff, and if you want to do it for a project over a weekend or for somebody else's company, they should pay you for it. And it's a bit weird because it feels a bit strange to begin with, but after you start doing it, it's the only way to go, really.
Yeah, it's like you can't go back at that point.
No, it's definitely a one-way street. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So thank you so much. A few more questions. So
Sure.
why did you make the decision to work together?
I think it was, I just thought I have to, because if you don't dream big, go home, sort of thing. I mean, you've got, I was literally reaching the point where I was like, I mean, so many times I've tried to just give up on the tech thing. I can remember vaguely mentioning that to you right at the beginning. I was just like, I just feel I should just give up this tech thing. It's just going to be a bit of fun, bit of a gimmicky thing. And I was like, I just can't. And I thought, right, you can't just coast for the rest of your career, because you'll just be full of regret, in retirement, and we can't have regret. So, so I just thought, right, I've got to do this. And it was very fortuitously timed, in the summer holiday. And so I just thought, right, let's invest this time. And I mean, it's interesting. It's not just the work in your program; it's the work that's done outside the program. That outside of the time that we spend together. It's because it gives you, your the clarity just gradually gets there, and all the less important things get sieved out. And that's what I wanted. I desperately wanted, if it was possible, because remember that point, I just didn't know what I was doing. I just thought, right, is this possible to get this beehive of ideas focused on something? And you're a miracle worker because you did it. But that's why I did it, really. I just wanted clarity, I wanted direction, and I wanted to see if there was a demand for the kind of things that I could do. Yeah, and I was very happy that yes, on all fronts.
Was there something that kicked you over the fence, so to speak? What was it like? One thing, and you were suddenly like, yes, I have to work with her, or yeah.
I think it was after when we first started chatting, and you were saying, right, let me ask you some questions, and you asked me some questions about the way I was thinking, and it was actually your questions. Interestingly enough, it's almost like Socratic questioning, because your questions opened up new avenues of thought straight away, and that's when I thought, that's what I found incredibly empowering, actually, right from the off, because I was like, right, these are the kind of questions that can be useful. This is not just randomly. So they're very very cleverly constructed questions that actually open you up to questioning your own ideals and your own interests and your own skill set. And then, I mean, it was a real, I suppose from the educational discipline, scaffolded. It was really nicely scaffolded. And that was great.
That's great to hear on my end. So that's
yeah, it's cool. It's good because I didn't know how I was going to get up there, because it was a big old scaffold, but the chunking worked. It was great. Yeah.
So great. Really. Would you recommend that others work with us?
Absolutely. I cannot enough. It will just change your mindset completely. If I could shake you all, I would. But honestly, it will just change your perspective on everything, especially if you're thinking, is there an opportunity? If you find yourself asking that at any point, simply because I was doing that frequently, I would say go for it, because it's a tremendous investment in your future, and it's great fun. I haven't actually talked about it's incredibly engaging and really good fun, and I'd highly recommend it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Who do you think is a good fit to work with us? Is there a special kind of teacher or not? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, see, I come from a very biased linguistics kind of background. So I'd always say definitely English teachers or language teachers, because the different sort of skill sets you practice and get used to sort of communicate meaning to students is a very, very versatile set of skills from an English perspective. Even from a teaching perspective, you've got mathematicians who are good at stats and all these wonderful things. There are so many skills. That's another thing about the program that makes you aware. There's so many skills that you don't even think are skills because you do them so often, are invaluable to sort of e-commerce and businesses out there. But because you use them all the time, you don't realize it. So if you find yourself questioning, is there anything else I could do that would be really cool? Do it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So the bias towards the English teachers, very
Always.
interesting. Okay, and why should somebody listening take action right now?
Because it'll be a crying shame just to waste it. The longer I really wish, I mean, it's the benefit of, annoyance, I suppose, of hindsight. I would have wished I'd done this years ago, but then at the same time, you think of all the skills you've developed over that time. That's cool, but you will not waste a second afterwards, and you'll know it'll just
Right.
the clarity, the guidance. I wouldn't waste a second, because what I know now, and if I look at the bumbling crazy person I saw at the start who didn't have a clue what he was doing, you just can't believe the leaps that you make in such a short space of time. And now I know exactly what I need to do in order to get into it. I just don't waste a second. If you ask yourself these questions, I wonder if, that could be cool. Where do I begin?
Mm-hmm.
Start.
Wonderful. That's great to hear.
Cool.
So what is your number one piece of advice for teachers who want to start a six-figure career in tech?
First of all, accept that you can straight away, even if you think, no way, that's such a hyperbole, that's impossible. It's totally not. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, well, just go to you, because honestly, it's been a godsend, because everything is achievable. And you wouldn't even believe it's achievable because you don't even know what's out there, and how to access. That's another thing. You can't. Getting accessibility to these things is really, in my mind, it was like, how on earth? Where do you even begin? But the program just integrates all of it. It's literally a one-stop solution for everything in terms of your social media presence, your CV, your how you approach people, how you get these dialogues generated, how you get these coffee chats. It doesn't just cover a couple of avenues of how to sort of get into these industries or how to get into these businesses. It tells you everything. It tells you exactly what you need, and you're incredibly prepared at the end of it, and really empowered to pick which one you want, really, which is another nice scenario as well. You don't have to just pick the first one you like. You can think, actually, do you know what? That's not quite for me. Let's try this one. It's tremendous.
There's still a lot of choice within the tech sector.
So much, but you couldn't even believe there's so much. It is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Wonderful. And where can people find out more about you online, your work, what you're doing? How can they find you?
My stuff. Probably Twitter, I suppose, is where I post so much, most like at edtechant, and LinkedIn is the really good. Is where I've, your mastery has brought all that together to actually make sense now. So I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook is. I can't believe Facebook has become my number one after thinking all these things in my head. It is phenomenal in terms of making contact with people and making contact with the right people, and then so I think those are the main ones. And the school term is about to start, where I'm pursuing another avenue within the school, which I didn't think was possible as well. So that's all going to start as well. So I'll be posting more stuff as the academic year starts, which is in a week.
Okay, so two quick things. Can you tell us your full name to find you on Facebook, or your Twitter handle, or I think I'm just referred to as Anthony and Ant so far.
Oh, sorry. So Twitter is at edtechant.
Okay.
EDTECHANT. LinkedIn is Anthony John Peters.
Mm-hmm.
And my Facebook is also Anthony John Peters. It's either you always should find sort of photos of me looking slightly younger, or playing with my, hanging out with my son. Yeah.
Great. And you quickly referenced. Can you quickly tell us what you'll be doing in the school this year? This new avenue you're exploring there,
Yeah.
as you're continuing to do all this other work, right?
Yeah, so I don't want to rush this now because I know exactly what I want to do. I want to do this the right way. If you do it quickly, you do it twice, right? So initially I was going to go in as an English teacher, but now I'm going in as an English leader of learning. And I'm going to be doing the staff training, so in EdTech. So I'm going to be doing some CPD, as we call it in England. I think it's called PD in the States. So I'm going to be leading, because it's on an online school. So I'm going to be helping them. Although it's an online school, there's a lot of opportunity which I don't think they're aware of in order to really get this right. And I love doing teacher training, and now I know what I'm doing and what I'm specializing in and need to invest my time in. That's what I'm doing this year, and then I'm going to see where it goes from there as well.
Wonderful.
So we'll see.
You can even use your new focus to help guide your work back in school for however long you're going to be there. Maybe
So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, and as I say, the coffee chats are ongoing, and it's such an exciting time now. It's just because I feel prepared. I know what I'm doing. I feel empowered. I know exactly what I've got to do, and what I'm sending to people is, we worked on it together, and it's really, as I said earlier, using the sort of that it's tight, it's uniform, it knows, I'm to the point. There's no waffling. It's professional, and I got a real sense of accomplishment with that. It's really good.
Wonderful. I'm thrilled for you. Whoever gets to work with you is so lucky. You bring so much joy and the enthusiasm and expertise and excitement into the learning world and any other world that you enter. So I'm so thrilled for you. Thank you so much for your time. And obviously we'll be in touch, and I wish you the best. And bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.